Hey everybody. Alright, so before we take the car to the scale, I want to let you know that I've made some changes to the tune. Lucky me, I have great contacts in the industry and people who are willing to share information with me. This bit of information came from Alex up at NV Performance. They're in Jacksonville. These guys do a lot of work with Subarus. He personally has like, I don't know, 10 GCs. The guy's built some really cool stuff. Anyways, him and I were talking about timing and ignition advance theory. And essentially, the Subaru motor is extremely inefficient and requires a lot of ignition advance. Check this out.
So this is the ignition advance map that I previously had on the vehicle. Take a look at these values here. Take a look at the values in the low load, low RPM. This area over here is basically your idle. This area over here is where most of the driving takes place. And this over here is when you do a pull and you let off, it drops down through here and then comes back that way. Notice the values here. You see most of these ignition timing is, in the 20s, a little bit in the 30s, and so on. Now let's take a look at the stock map.
Now, the stock map I was able to find on the internet. RomRaider is this old software that we used to use back in the day, and I'm sure a lot of people still do now. I started using RomRaider years ago when I had my WRX, and the way you access it is with a Tactrix cable. But anyways, I found a stock map in their map selection database, and I went and I took a look at the timing, and I realized something here. You guys are probably going to notice a big difference too.
Whoa, look at that timing. Now on this you've also got to realize too that the load is now based on G/rev. It's not PSI based. Also, the way that the table is set up is different here. So this is the RPM and this is the load. So apply that when you're looking at the difference in the tables. However, the same could still be said that this is your idle spot, this is your driving area, probably like more like that. And then when you do a pull and you let off, it comes back here and then traces back up this way. Notice these timing values. Look at that. Crazy, right? 50 degrees, pretty much. I mean, 49.26, basically 50. And then 46, and then 43, 41. So on this, with the stock turbo and the stock setup, it would be easy to say that essentially your boost, like if you floored it from the beginning, it would probably do something like this. I don't know how much load it would actually hit, but if you trace these values across and then back down, probably something along those lines. So let's look at that timing. It goes from 49, 43, 40, 34, 27, 23, 19. Anything past 1.75, I believe, is now you're actually into the boost section of the map. And we can kind of see that by looking at the change in the timing. So you figure you're probably hitting full boost in a stock turbo around like 3600. Look at this change from 21, 19, 15, 12. You can kind of trace this out. So it's safe to say that in boost, the stock one is running, between 12 and 15 degrees. And then once it crosses over peak torque that the motor makes, the efficiency starts to drop off again. And that's where they start to come in with a little bit more timing advance to bring that in. So by looking at the stock map, now this is for stock power levels and everything, but we can apply the same theory to our map as well.
So when we apply that theory, we got to think about exactly what is really happening here. When you advance the timing, so imagine that this is the cylinder, and here's the head with the valves, and here's the bottom of the piston. So if our original timing is only right here, most of the compression and combustion is going to happen here, and then on the way down, you're going to have more leftover heat, essentially, that's going to be forced out through the head, which will raise your EGT. Okay, now raised EGT can increase spool. Now on the flip side of that, if say that we advance it way back here and we increase our ignition advance values up to 30 or 40 degrees, well, what is happening is the majority of that combustion is actually happening inside of the cylinder. Now, the coolant system is going to absorb most of that heat and do its job. And you're going to have less EGT, so it is going to reduce the spool a little bit. Now, a trick to doing that is basically you want to keep your timing high enough that the efficiency of the motor is still there, so you feel power until you're into boost. Then once you get into boost, you want to reduce the timing and let the turbo take over. But in that middle period, that's where you can adjust spool. Now, if you have a really, really big turbo, you can, retard the ignition advance a little bit, put a little bit more EGT in there, and it'll help spin it faster. I haven't done anything like that on mine. The only thing that I've set up so far on mine is purely for drivability aspects, which is what we're going to go do next when we go take it to the scale. However, let's take a look at the map that I have created after learning this new theory.
Okay, so here is my new ignition advance map. You notice this is a pretty big difference from the other one, and you'll also be able to hear and feel, well, I guess you won't be able to feel because you'll be on a video, but you should be able to tell the difference when we drive it. Look at these values. These values, I didn't go stock because I didn't necessarily want to heat up the combustion chamber completely. I wanted to leave it air in the side of safety, keep the temperatures a little bit lower. As we test it and do polls and we see what it actually does in boost and if there's any detonation, then we can adjust this timing down here. So these values are actually still pretty conservative compared to stock. They're about, 15-20% less than stock still. So that leaves a pretty good margin right there. But you'll basically see that, so this is our idle area over here. This is this timing right here. When I blip the throttle to engage first gear, it goes through this kind of cleaned that up. You'll notice that my timing down here at the bottom is all set appropriately. Now it doesn't pop and cackle like it used to. That is cool, but it is actually inefficient. And then this is the driving area. Now you'll notice that on this one, my boost curve is something like this, and then it goes over and then down. So we go from 27 degrees, 28, 30, 29, 28, 24, 21, 17, 13, 14, 15, 16 at peak, and then drops back down that way. And that is the new strategy for ignition advance on the Boostaholics GC8.
So now that you've sat through all of that lecture, some of you probably thought that was great information. Other guys and girls watching this probably just right over your head. You don't care, you're just going to take it to a pro tuner anyways. Whatever. I think it's really cool who people want to try and learn something new and expand their skill set, such as I have. I can tell you it's been an extremely rewarding activity. And if you watch the rest of the videos that are in this playlist, you'll actually learn a lot about tuning. I've had some really great help from people like Eric Cruz from Vanquish Tuning and Michael Atkins from M-Tune. Now the guys up at Envy Performance have chipped in a little bit. I've talked with Orlando about his tuning theory and my friend Chris about his tuning theory. Basically, one of the things that I've used is my resources around me, which is something that you can use too. People that you know tune, just talk to them, fill in the blanks. Great resources also would be like the tuning school. Brenton Brown from Forza Tune, when I was hanging out with him and I was filming his cars, I was talking to him about tuning to help build my theory. And that's essentially how this all works. So let's go apply this theory in real world. So one of the hardest parts about using a standalone is the cold start. This is something that I've worked on for a long time and it's finally come around. It's pretty good. I'm pretty proud of it. I want to show you guys this. Not bad, right? So the keys to a proper cold start is the initial pulse width of the injector based on the temperature, and then also you want to match your target idle RPM with so there's values because this is drive-by-wire. Also on the standard throttle body that's not drive-by-wire, there's also values for the idle air control valve. But basically you want to set that flap to open to give you the appropriate amount of air, the fuel injectors to the appropriate amount of fuel to reach your idle target. And once you do that, it should be good.
Okay, so one of the things that you want to apply is when the engine isn't cold, it cannot atomize the fuel appropriately. And this is something that Eric taught me about. Now, you only burn the vapor of the fuel, you don't actually burn the liquid. Only so much gasoline will evaporate at a specific rate at a specific temperature. So, the way that you get it to warm up is you want to richen it up a little bit. That way you increase the amount of vapor. Now look at my AFRs. 12.6, 12.7. I have this on a slope. It starts out at about like 11.8 when it first starts, and then slopes its way as it warms up to like 14, 14.5. Okay, so let's see how those timing changes affected our drivability. Scale. Now we get to see if all of my hard work paid off. That means I think we hit 27. 2,700 pounds. Oh, that hard work of pulling shit out of the car paid off. Oh my God, 2,700 pounds. So then if I can get this thing up to 600 wheel horsepower or something like that at 2,700 pounds, that means that's pretty much our goal. Alright guys, so I gotta say, I'm pretty sure that a lot of this weight savings came from using these Wedsport TC 105N wheels. That saved me about 40 pounds all around. Not just 40 pounds off the car, but that's 40 pounds of rotating weight. And that made a huge difference. And then also, obviously we've got the racing seats in there. That took out a bunch of weight. Carbon fiber steering wheel from D&D, which is great, might I add. Really happy with that. And then also deleted a bunch of the HVAC, so on and so forth. Overall, I'm super happy with it. That, with the change in the tune, man, this car is really crisp like it should be. It definitely turned out great. So if you guys want to get some TC 105Ns, there's a sale going on at CommiSpeed until the end of the month. Use my code Boostaholics and you'll be able to save even more money. I know that, remember our buddy Evo Tony? Evo Tony's got some TC 105Ns on his Evo now too, and we'll follow up with him later. So thanks for watching, subscribe, share, I'll see you later.